In today's lesson, we'll be learning about slope. In a previous lesson, we learned that slope is the same thing as rate of change. However, slope refers to the steepness of a line. To determine the slope of a line, we need to draw a right triangle underneath that line. Rise refers to the height of this triangle, while run refers to the base of this triangle. The equation for slope is rise over run. Now, before we begin, I'm going to show you a shortcut. If a line is pointing upwards, in other words, if you're running uphill, it has to have a positive slope. If your line is pointing downwards, in other words, if you're running downhill, it must have a negative slope. In our first example, we need to find the slope of this green line. Take a minute to look at its shape. Is the line pointing upwards or is it pointing downwards? It is pointing upwards, which means it must have a positive slope. Next, we need to draw a right triangle underneath this green line. I can draw one over here. I can draw one over here. I can also draw one down here. The point is, I can draw a triangle anywhere I want. I'm going to stick with this triangle. We now need to find the rise, which is really just the height of the triangle, and the run, which is the base of this triangle. The rise occurs between the numbers 10 and 50, which means the rise is going to be 40. Meanwhile, the run occurs between the number 0 and the number 4, which means the run is going to be 4. The equation for slope is rise over run. We just determined rise to be 40 and the run to be 4. We can simplify this by dividing the numerator by the denominator. In other words, 40 divided by 4, and that is going to give us 10. Now, if you recall, the line was pointing upwards, which meant it had to have a positive slope. You can put a positive sign in front of this 10, or you can just leave it as 10. They would both mean exactly the same thing.